welcome to our 26-27 start of year training. So first of all, I want to tell you that we have changed a few things on our checklist. So first things first, I'm going to take you to our checklist. So if you look up here at the question mark and go to our meta documentation, the best way that I find is to filter on start of year. So if I filter on start of year, you should be able to get that start of year checklist in the district office and start of year checklist in the school building. We are going to go through the school building checklist first. And then for those of you that are not district leaders, you can actually drop off of the meeting if you want. You can also stay if you want for the district office checklist at the end of the training. Again, but we are going to use this start of year checklist in the school building first. That is this one here. And we are going to just, again, follow it. We're going to just walk through all of these steps here. We have updated it with a few little things. So if you haven't recently printed this out or saved it, somewhere in your documentation, I would do so today. Again, the district checklist, we did make also some revisions here and added some My Power Hub information here at the bottom. So again, I would just go ahead and bring those up, have those available for you as we're walking throughout this training. All right, so just to make note, your system, your data is going to look different than ours. We are using our train environment with all fake data. As you can see here, I'm in the 26-27 year, but our customization is saying that I need to change to our current year. This actual database did not perform a end of year rollover. So that is why it's saying that. So you guys should not be getting you're in a future year, that customization there at the top. But again, this is fake data that we're using today. So as we walk, throughout the training, you're going to see some things that look a little bit different. All right, so just getting started then, we're going to start at the school building with that checklist. We're going to start on the school additional preferences settings. So we're going to go to school management, and we're going to go to display preferences and additional preferences in our menu. And what I'm going to ask you to do is just kind of glance at this on your system. Look at the functions, make sure that they're the way that you want to see them. The default term level, we always, recommend that you have one full year listed at the top. That way, when you sign on, you can see that one full year. If your district wants something different, that is a totally up to you, whatever your district prefers. Do remember that anything changed on this additional preferences page does require an overnight process to complete. So if you are changing something, you are not going to see that change right away. It does take that overnight process to complete. So a lot of us try to troubleshoot and maybe change something on here and submit and reach out and wonder why it's not changing. That is why. Scrolling down here, and there's student schedule matrix preferences. I cannot talk this morning. We usually recommend that all those be checked along with the teacher schedule matrix preferences. So again, just look through this. It's going to keep your settings from last year. Is there anything that you don't want to show, anything that you want to change here? This is where you would do so. Just remember too that this default term level, it does not exist at the district level, only at the school level. So this is a building-wide setting, not a user by user and not a district setting. So again, just reiterating on that default term level here. Okay, we're going to move right along then on our next item on our checklist, which is scheduling. We're going to go to school management, and we're going to drop down here to scheduling. And we're going to look first of all at our periods in scheduling. Now, before we go into scheduling, I do want to always recommend that you are in communication with your schedulers. I know because I work in scheduling a lot, your schedulers have been working very, very hard since last November. We don't want to change anything without talking to them. We don't want to add periods. We don't want to add cycle days, anything like that without talking to our schedulers first. So again, they've worked really hard. We don't want to mess up those schedules. But if there is something that you see that might not be quite right or you're not familiar with, reach out to that scheduler and say, why is this the way it is? Maybe it is something that they've overlooked and that does need change before school starts. So again, I always reiterate that don't be making changes with this unless you have talked to your schedulers. I'm just going to point out a couple things that you might want to look at and may need to talk to your schedulers about is these period numbers. Again, do you need, all the periods that are listed in your environment? Here we have, and this is just an example, we do have 11 periods. This period number is your internal period number. This is the name of your period, and this is the abbreviation of your period. This is what is going to show on student schedules. So again, you can see that I have renamed my period 11 to my ATT period, okay? So that's what's going to show on my student schedule. I have also, you can see that I've dragged my 11 to the top so that that's the first thing that shows on my schedule. And again, you're going to see something totally different probably on your side. But, if you want those in any other order, you can do so. You do have to submit down here to make that change. But you can reorder those period numbers. When I want to add a period, I would go to my school management, scheduling, and my years and terms. Again, I don't recommend doing this unless you talk to schedulers. And in my 26-27 year, if I click on that, you can see that I have 11 periods right now. This is where I can add periods if I need to, or if I'm not using all my periods, I can take those periods away. Same with your cycle days, which we're going to go into next. You can also, if you're using maybe 5 cycle days this year and you used only 1 last year, this is where you can change that as well. So speaking of cycle days, let's go back and take a look at those. So school management, scheduling, and cycle days. Do I have the same cycle days as I used last year? Am I changing to 5-day? Am I going back to 1 day? This is where you would make those changes, again, after talking to your schedulers. You can do the same thing on your cycle days as you can on your periods. So you can reorder those as needed. You can name these anything that you want to name them, within reason, obviously. But if I click on that A day, I can name it A day. I can name it A. I can name it Monday if I want to. If those are if my A days are always on Monday, I can do whatever was preferred by my district. The abbreviation is also over here. So again, you're going to see that name, that abbreviation, and that internal circle day number or cycle day number. Let's see, what am I missing on here? These are going to come into play when we set up our calendar, which we're going to get into in just a little bit here. And again, going in that years and terms, that is how I add cycle days if I want it different than last year. You can see if I go back into my last year's schedule, just flipping back here in 25-26, I only had an A-day schedule in my 25-26. So it is, you can change it to be your specific for your particular building. Okay, let's go back into years and terms for a minute. So if you go to school management, scheduling, and back into years and terms, if you go over to your edit terms and take a look at your terms, you're going to see what kind of terms you've built for your building. So in this particular building, I have a year-long term and I have a semester, and it's semester 1 and semester 2 term. You can see here that I still have my year-long and my semesters are still suppressed. So my students cannot see their schedules as of yet. So if I click into that year long term and I'm ready to unsuppress the classes for this term, I can do so here. So if I'm ready for that, I'm going to make that change here. I would also, make sure you look at the meta report card. Do I want to go ahead and exclude that as well? I probably do. A lot of times we recommend you excluding the meta report card when you suppress those terms, only because if students have access to that meta report card, those schedules will show on the meta report card, and we wouldn't want them to know their schedule until you're ready for them to know that. So again, that would be one reason why you would have those suppressed right now. Another thing to look at right now before school starts is, are your term year, my year term dates correct? Are we starting on 8/17, and is the last day of school right now on 5/28? You want to make sure those are correct, and also not just your year long, but you want to make sure your semesters, and you may even have quarters or trimesters built out. You want to make sure that those are correct as well. Sometimes those dates change. Sometimes your schedulers, or sometimes as district leaders, you set those up early in the year, meaning maybe back in November or December, and maybe that calendar wasn't quite set in stone, and now it is. This would be the time to check into those dates. If you make a date change here, I'm just going to say from a scheduling standpoint, make sure that your courses and your courses that your students are in do coincide with those dates. So some of that may need changed as well. One thing to point out, if you do have semesters or quarters, these dates must be in order. There must not be any gaps between the dates. So you can see here that my semester 1 ends on 1/3, but my semester 2 starts on 1/4. There should not be a gap within your dates. So also, as you're looking through, suppressing the terms and things like that, that you're also making sure that those dates flow, that those dates don't have any gaps in between those. Very, very important as we get, as we talk about our calendar a little bit later. That's really important, and that's also important for attendance as well. So just making sure you're looking through your own, and you're looking through those dates with the years and terms. Okay. As we go down our list, then we are going to look at the calendar portion of our list. First thing is bell schedules. This has been a real big subject this year. We have done some trainings on bell schedules. I know Lindsay and Margie are like our bell schedule gurus, and they have done a wonderful job reaching out to districts, letting them know, if we see something that's, not looking right. I know that as we have a small team that actually did a bell schedule audit for our districts. And if you have recently received an email from our team saying, hey, you might just want to look at your bell schedule, that's something that's real important that you need to do now before school starts. If we have reached out to you, we have seen something on your bell schedule that maybe doesn't look quite right to us, but it might make sense to you. So it just needs to be something that's looked at, that, we just want to bring you aware of before your district starts school. Margie, did you have something that you wanted to include? Okay.
Well, not with that, but I have a couple questions on your term setup there.
Okay.
One of them, Denise is asking, is it possible to switch to the current year and yet still suppress meta report card and schedules? And then she says, we were taught that the two were tied together. I couldn't switch to the current 26-27 year and still hide the schedules.
So, Denise, I think we had a chat about that the other day. We did do a test with that. yes, you can switch over to looking at your term and you can suppress your schedules and it should not show. There are other things that come into play when you don't want your students to see schedules. So it's not just this year. So you should be able to switch to your current year on your default term setting, if that's what you're talking about, without those students seeing their schedules as long as they're still suppressed. We did do a test, but again, it took an overnight. It took overnight to see that only because that was in that additional preferences screen. Yes, you should be able to change to your year long term if you want to look at this year, because I know that was an issue for you guys.
I also have another one.
Okay.
When it comes to end start dates with the terms, do they need to start on a Monday or a day that is butts in seat?
Okay, so that's a good question. So my semester two, I'm going to just click into this because it'll bring up my calendar. My semester two starts on January 4th, okay? But we really are not in school January 3rd, but January 3rd has to be my last day of the previous term because I don't want any gaps between. So what I usually do when I'm going in and looking at my terms is I look at those dates. If my first day of the next term starts on a Wednesday, I want my last day of the previous term to start on a Tuesday. So, that it doesn't matter that we're not in school on the 3rd. That's the day that you always want to put the day before that next term starts. That's how we break that gap between those days. Is that super confusing
Yeah,
or did that?
I don't think so. I think she's answering now, so I think
Oh,
we should
okay.
be good.
Okay.
Yep,
All right. So
no
yeah, no
problem.
matter what it is, if it's, obviously I don't think you're going to start your term on a Sunday, but if you start your next term on a Monday, then your previous term would end on a Sunday. It is basic. Yes, you're right. Is basically based on the start date of your next term or your next quarter. Yeah. Or your next trimester. That's why when we go through and set up your calendars and things like that, we always say, or set up your terms for the next year. We always say, use that first day and then go back and fill in the last day of your previous term. Okay. Are we good to move forward? Are there any more questions
Yep.
about those term dates?
Nope,
Okay,
you
thanks.
did
Okay,
good.
perfect. Okay, great. All right. So we are going to go back to bell schedules. We're going to go into our bell schedule here. So we're going to go school management, scheduling, and we're going to go into our bell schedules. And bell schedules are year specific. So if you have a ton of old bell schedules, you can delete those if you're not using them. Again, always make sure you are in the current year that you want to use, because if you are in 25 26 and you're deleting 25 26 bell schedules, that's not a good thing. If you are in 26 27 and I have old bell schedules like I do here, I can go into this regular day bell schedule and I can delete this out of my 26 27 year. Okay. I have created a new regular day 26 27 bell schedule. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and delete this old one. I know for a fact I'm in my 26 27. I know for a fact I'm not using this old bell schedule. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. Okay. And it just cleans up your list of bell schedules so that there's not so many, because I know that just in my Meta High School, I have a regular calendar and I have a 2 hour delay calendar, but I also have this cheat bell schedule. I have a Friday option. You may have, I know of one district that's on here that has, a blue day, a white day, a 2 hour blue day, a 2 hour white day, and so on. So just make sure that you keep those schedules cleaned up, and it's a lot easier than to work with if you have attendance issues or if you have calendar issues. You're only working with those bell schedules that you're using for this year. Um, Again, please be in communication with everybody that works with the bell schedules. So if it's not just the district leader, if it's sometimes the building secretary or sometimes the schedulers that work on the bell schedule. So who does this in your building? That's a good question to ask right now before school starts. Who set this up? Who's in charge of managing our bell schedule this year? Um, and just always remind them, make sure that you're in that year, that your current year that you want to change before making any changes to those bell schedules. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at my 26-27 regular day bell schedule. As we go on with our calendar, after we look at these bell schedules, you're going to see that you can only use that one bell schedule a day. So just remember that you can't use more than one bell schedule a day. So you have to sort out your times for your bell schedule as you are creating it. You can use one of your period times for your daily bridge period, which is your daily attendance. So you can see here, if you remember when we talked about your periods, I had renamed that period 11. I had renamed that my ATT period. My ATT period, I'm going to go ahead and click into it. I have at least 5 minutes in that AT&T period, but this is also my daily attendance period. So this also counts for my full day daily attendance period. You can see that I have that marked here as my full day, and it does then appear on my bell schedule as my used for daily attendance period. It's got my full day. So it has my start time of 7:30. It has my end time of 2:10. Those times need to coincide with your period times. And we have, as we did our bell schedule audit, we did notice that there were times that maybe our default time was different than our last period of the day. And that's something that you would need to look at if you are just rechecking your periods and your bell schedule list. Each time period must connect to the next. So you can see here that my time period, my period 1 is 7:30 a.m. to 8:18 a.m. My period 2 starts directly right after at 8:19 or 8:19 a.m. If you have gaps in your period, it's not the end of the world. We don't recommend you doing that, but it's not the end of the world. It's not a be all. If you say, my kid's in their period 1 at 8:18, but I don't want my periods, my next period to start till 3 minutes after, that's okay, but your Find Me alert is not going to work during that time. So our recommendation, and it's a great recommendation because your Find Me alert will work, is to make that second period start the minute after your first period ends. That way that student is heading towards period 2. That's where they should be. If you need to find them, it's going to show up on the Find Me alert that's where your student should be next. So that's why we recommend no gaps in the end time and the start time of your next period. We also recommend that you include your exact time for lunches. Lunches are non-instructional time. So if your students eat lunch for 25 minutes, that period should be exactly 25 minutes in your bell schedule, and that lunch is marked as non-instructional. On that lunch course, there's a checkbox at the bottom of that course on the preferences that it says exclude from instructional time attendance calculations. And that is included in our bell schedule, but it's not included in our instructional time. So that is a real big source of some concern when we were doing our bell schedule audits, that that non-instructional time is taken off your attendance calculations for the day. Our recess and study halls are actually considered instructional time, so you do not have to include those in there. But the lunches, do need included. The lunches can overlap in your bell schedule. So you can see, actually, you can see here where my lunches are here. My 22 minutes of lunches is here, and those can overlap in your times in your bell schedule. Okay. But again, we do, recommend that you include those in your bell schedule. If you have, if you see issues that maybe we didn't see and we didn't reach out to you regarding your bell schedule, please put in a case. Now is the time to do that. Waiting till your first day of school, not the time to do that. Now is the time to do that. Okay. All right. And we do have people, that work with you one-on-one in your bell schedule if you need to do that. All right. So any general questions about bell schedules? I know everybody's bell schedules is different. So again, that would be something that you would reach out to us on if you wanted something specific to your district. Okay. All right. We are going to move on then.
Kim, we had Angel asked if lunch period should count for your ADA. And Angel, that is a no, since Ohio, your DL will really control your times, but you don't need your lunch period to count for ADA. It's not going to hurt you if it does because your DL will override it, but it does not need to. So when you fill out your lunch period on your bell schedule, you can uncheck the ADA button.
Okay, great question. Thank you. All right, let's move on to schedules, or to calendars. I mean, not schedules, calendars. All right, so we are going to move on to our calendars. So we're going to go back to school management. We are going to go into scheduling, and this time we're going to go into configure calendar. Okay, so you can see here that in my Meta High School for my 26-27 year, my calendar is not ready to go. It is not filled in. It is not ready to go. I can go through these days individually, and I can fill in my, my cycle days. I can fill in my bell schedule. Again, I can only use one bell schedule, and I can only use one cycle day for each day. I want to make sure that each one of those days that I am in session, that this is check marked. I want to make sure that each of my membership value for the days that I am in school is a member valueship of 1. That way your attendance will calculate correctly. We always recommend that you just mark all the tracks. That way, if you are or you are not using tracks, they'll all be marked for each day. Type is not necessary, but you can, put the work in. If you want to do every day is in session, you can do that. Your EMIS type, we always recommend to make sure that your EMIS coordinator knows, hey, my calendar is set up. You guys can go in and do whatever you need to do on the EMIS side, and then any note you can put in there. To me, this is extra work, the type and the note, unless there is a particular special day that you want to put in there. But if you want to put the extra work in and put the type and the note in there, you're more than welcome to do so. That is filling out this one by one, this each day by each day. This does start at those calendar days that I've put in. So Monday, August 17th is my first day of school. If I go to the very end of the calendar, you're going to see that my last day is May 28th. It doesn't give me any days prior to the first day of school or after the first day of school. Okay. I particularly like to set up my calendar by going to school management, scheduling, and configure automated calendar. Now, one thing I want to point out here is if your calendar days are set, and if your schedulers or, you as a district leader or your building has already set up their calendar, please do not reset your calendar. You're going to overwrite all of the information that they've already worked on and put in there. So again, I'm just showing you how the calendar works within the system. But if your calendar is already set up, which I'm guessing most of yours are, please do not go back and reset your calendar. You'll have some work ahead of you if you do that. So if you are configuring your automated calendar as a whole and you don't want to do it day by day, you can go to configure automated calendar. I would want to put my first day, my button seats day, which is going to be August 17th for my Meta High School. My last day is that May 28th day in 27. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that day. And those, again, that's my first day and last day of school. Pretty simple. I'm going to go through my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday schedule. So I'm going to say that my Mondays are going to be A's, my Tuesdays are going to be my B days, my Wednesdays are going to be my C days, Thursdays, my D days, and Fridays, my E days. You may only have a 1-day cycle day, totally fine. Just depending on what kind of schedules that you guys have. My bell schedules, I'm going to use what I would use on a typical day of school. So my typical day of school is going to be a regular day. So I'm going to change all of my days to regular days. My 26, 27 new bell schedule. I'm going to make sure that all of those days are in session, because on most months of my school year, my days, my Monday through Friday days are going to be in session. I'm also going to put my membership value as 1, because again, on most of those school days, my membership value is going to be 1. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in all of my tracks for these days. And on this training, it just takes forever to fill these in, but I just want to make sure that we are getting this done. Even though I do know that they're already filled in on my calendar. Okay. We should have some music playing while this is going on. I have to remember that next year.
Get the Jeopardy theme going.
Yeah, right. Again, I can fill in these types if I want to. Again, for me, I feel like it's additional work, but if you want that special note there, you want that special type day in there, that's where you would fill that in. Now, once I click submit on this, it is going to fill in my calendar for my 2026-27 dates. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. My changes are saved. I'm going to go back to my school calendar, scheduling, configure calendar. And you're going to see now that all of my cycle days are filled in, all of my bell schedules filled in, all my school in session days, my membership values. This is everything that I set up on my automated calendar. I want to go back and I'm going to change the days that I know are, say, holidays or spring breaks, Christmas break, things like that. So I know probably my first holiday is probably Labor Day, which is in September. I'm just going to say it's Monday, September 7th. I'm going to go ahead and change this to that we are not here this day. I'm going to change this membership value to 0. I'm going to take off my tracks, which I don't absolutely have to, but I'm going to take off my tracks. And I'm going to put this as, do I have Labor Day in here? I do. I'm going to set that as Labor Day. I'm going to let EMIS know, hey, I went ahead and changed all of my calendar settings. You are free to go in there and change those to your state reporting days that you need to change. And I'm going to go ahead and submit that. And then if I wanted to put any note in there, I could. So that day, I know we are not in session. So it is not going to charge anybody an attendance day that day if they're not here, because no one should be here on Monday, September 7th. So again, you just need to go back into that calendar, make sure those days are set if you know them. If you don't know them right now, just, try to get as many days as you can in there before your first day of school. But that is the basics on setting up your calendar. Again, most of you probably already have that done already, which I would suspect. So if there are, any issues, you would probably need to talk to the person that set up the calendar for you for your building. There is something else called a batch school setup that is available at the district level. We kind of call it a calendar push. This sets the one district calendar up and then pushes it out to all the buildings. So again, we don't usually talk about that during the school building checklist, but there is that calendar push. We do have documentation on batch school setup. So if that is something, that you haven't done already and you want to do it, or you just want to keep it, for next year to do it, we do have documentation on that in our meta documentation. So again, that's kind of at a district level. So we don't mention that a lot during the building setup. Okay, so we've gone through our school additional preferences, our scheduling, our calendar. I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay to talk to you a little bit about our attendance.
The first thing that we just want to remind you is going to be for your attendance codes. So in each building, you want to go to your school management, attendance, and attendance codes. Not much should change after your rollover, but it's always a good idea to double check, make sure that these are all still the appropriate codes for your year. Something that is going to be a little different with the My Power Hub implementations, the description is going to show up on the tile for attendance. So your description, you don't want it to be super long. I know I've seen some descriptions that are almost a sentence. You want to kind of keep those just a little bit shorter so it's easier to see on that screen. So just something to keep in the back of your mind for your notes here. While we're on that topic, on August the 3rd, we are having a virtual and in-person training in Columbus, and that is going to start at 10 a.m. Until noon. So please, if you want to go way more in depth on attendance training, we're going to put the core side and EMIS. And we're going to really get into depth in attendance, and then we're going to have a work day in the afternoon. So please, August the 3rd, you can join us for that training from 10 to noon, and then the work day is in person only. But just as we're venturing into attendance for this next year, and all the changes, that it would be a great thing for everyone to attend. So in your attendance code, you just want to make sure everything still looks correct here. The state information, it may look just a teeny bit different, but that's something also that we're going to cover on the 3rd. So we want to make sure that everyone just has all their codes set up correctly, that everything looks good as we're moving into this new HB 96 for the year. And then the next item is our conversions. So here's one that happens all the time on your attendance conversions. Please make sure that when you go in here, whichever way you run, most of our districts are on a code today, so they're a daily attendance, but this should not say partial. We always want this to say defined. So please check on all of your buildings. If this says partial, you just click in here, and then you'll go in here and you'll just put your counts values in here. So we have, which I may not be right on these, but I'm just going to put them in to show you the difference here. Once you have them filled in, then you just submit it. And then when we go back to our conversion, now it will say defined. So your conversion is going to affect any of your attendance information. If you're glancing at your ADA, ADM, just to make sure your memberships are correct. The report cards, the meta report cards are going to pull that information as well if you're doing the counts on your report cards. So you always want to make sure that those are defined. And then lastly is our full-time equivalencies. So you just want to make sure most of our districts only have a full day. Some have halves if you're doing preschools. So just make sure those are correct. You'll always want to make sure that your mode and your conversions are correct here, but then also that you have all of your grades included. We had one year, we had a district that added 6th grade to their, I think it was their middle school, but they forgot to check mark 6th grade. So then that way, none of the 6th grade attendance was calculating. So you always just want to make sure that all of those are correct as well. And then just a little reminder, if you have the Jitterbit process enabled to share attendance data, sorry, I can't read my note here, that's scrunched. If you have Jitterbit enabled to share your attendance data with your career centers for your satellite students, you will want to contact your career center to update them if you have any building setup modifications. So just for anyone that's using Jitterbit, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, then you probably don't use it and you don't need to do anything with it. Are there any attendance questions regarding start of year? Okay, Margie, I will turn it over to you.
All righty. Let the games begin, folks. I'm going into GPA, honor roll, class rank, and athletic eligibility, and I can hear your enthusiasm. All right. So without further ado, just a quick top of the line here. Just remember, if you don't have anything changing, you probably won't need to make any updates here. It's always a good idea to review the settings and make sure everything still matches your district's expectations. But if the calculation methods and the criteria remain the same, you generally leave these settings alone. This area typically only needs attention when your district decides to change how GPAs, honor rolls, and class ranks are calculated. Okay? So without further ado, I will jump into the high school. And I'm going to pull up a student here. So in your students, you can see their, in the academic records, their cumulative info. And this is for each district. This is designed by each individual district, actually. And so your buildings can determine what you want to appear here. Okay, I will show you where that's found now. If you go back out to the start page and you go to school management, academics, and the GPA info for student screens. All of that information you just saw on the screen of the student is right here. Again, these don't really need to be changed unless you are working on a change with your district on these. This section actually has methods that show you how each one is calculated. And there have been many changes. If there's been any changes to your district's GPA, fine. If not, again, just leave it alone. Another option is at the top of this page for the quick lookup view. On the quick lookup page, under the courses, right under your courses, grades, and attendance, you can choose which method you want to show. You can choose your current, which it is right now. You can choose the cumulative unweighted, which is what I'm going to pick, or you can just make it blank so there is no GPA that shows at all. So if I click this one and go down and submit, I'll go back to the student and show you what that should look like. That's under your student profile and your quick lookup. So if you would add a GPA in, it shows right here. Otherwise, it would just be blank. So that is an option that you have. We leave those up to you guys. The next part of this section is the honor roll. And the honor roll is found under school management, academics, and honor roll methods under the honor roll. This school has used a few different honor roll methods over the years. Here are the available levels that they have right here. So if you open up the Q1 honor roll levels in this one, you'll see they have 3 different levels here. If I look at the principals list, it's tied to a specific GPA calculation. So if I go in here and I pull this up, your GPA calculation is tied here. This is where you would find those to make those differences in there. And if you scroll down here, the comparison, it shows that the student with a GPA of 4.0 or higher is what will be included for this, and your grade requirements depending on how your district has configured it. However, if you made the principals list for the first time in the 9 weeks, you can also put a comment like, Congratulations. Cookies and candy are waiting for you in the office. And be ready because an influx of kids will probably come in. There are other ones that you have here. If you look at your honor roll list, you can see that this one is the next one down. It goes from 3.5 to 3.99 as to who would qualify to have the honor roll. Again, these can show at the bottom of your report cards and things too. And your last one would be your merit roll, which would be your 3.0 to 3.499. So these are different honor roll methods that you have. Our next one that I go to, and this is a fairly simple one, is your class rank methods. That's also under school management, academics, and class rank methods. These are just the methods that you have there. Again, if there are no changes, you should not make any changes here. If you have questions, please put in a ticket with us and we will gladly help answer those questions on this information. And our final one in this particular section is your class rank recalculation frequency. Again, in the same area, school management, academics, recalculation frequency. This building currently has class rank to set as daily. You do have other options, but we generally recommend choosing manually here. A lot of people assume the best choice is after storing grades, but let me explain why we suggest otherwise. As soon as the grades are stored, the system immediately recalculates class rank. When you start reviewing the results, you may notice that a student who was previously ranked first is no longer at the top. Why does this happen? Well, often it's because your JVS grades, your CCP courses, or other outside grades haven't been entered in yet. Those students may be missing grades that should be included in the calculation, which can affect their rank until everything has been loaded and grades are stored. By selecting manually here, you stay in control of when the calculation occurs. You can wait until all your CCP, JVS grades, and any outstanding grades are entered before calculating the class rank. So in the long run, this can save you a lot of time and a lot of questions from students and parents about unexpected ranking changes. Then, when you're confident that all your grades are ready to update, class rank simply comes into play here by clicking Recalculate Now. And then it will bring you the green line that says that your information is saved, and then you can move forward in that. That's actually a fairly simple task to do in those. My next set, if there are no questions, are there any questions? Okay, I'm going to move
so
forward.
good that there are no questions, Margie.
Woohoo, let's continue on. The next one is final grade setup. This one is found in, again, your school management, your academics, and here you are going to create final grade and reporting terms. Now, Kim showed you the years and terms earlier, and that's what creates and populates this section for you. If you look at the first box, you'll see the full year classes here. I've already set those up. So for any of your full year classes, you'll need to identify each grading term that will be used. Some don't have exams, so you wouldn't need the E1 and the E2 or whatever you call your exams, okay? So this is important because you need to make sure each one of these are in your buckets. So let me start off with the semester one. We're going to set it up. This is where you'll specify which grades are given during the first semester. A semester one course might include the Q1, Q2, semester one, and like I said, if you do exam grades, you'll want to include that too. Okay, this setup right here is extremely important because it's what builds the grading structure in your teacher's grade books. So if a teacher comes to you and says, I can't enter grades in my grade books, one of the first places you'll want to go is here and check here and make sure that your grading terms have all been assigned for the courses, okay? Yeah, so this area also defines the type of course and determines which grading terms are available for that course. These settings impact more than just the teacher's gradebook, by the way. If the terms aren't set up correctly, it can also cause issues with some of the meta report card settings. So it's important to make sure everything is configured properly. So if I click on the new here under semester 1, and I'm going to do Q1. So when I do Q1, excuse me, an assignment entered between these dates will be what's included in my Q1 final calculation. You'll also see the suppressed grade display, the suppressed percent, your meta exclude, and your meta promotion indicator. I personally would check all of these for everything. And then when you get to the Q4, this is more for your elementary report card style. I would have it unchecked if you were in the elementary. But let me put my dates in for the first 9 weeks. And I know that we are 8/17 to 10/18 for this one. Now you notice I'm ending that on a Sunday because your Q2 should start the next day, and that's the day that the kids' butts are in seat. So I'm ending it on a Sunday. And down here, you'll go to your state information. This section is asking which grade should be considered the final grade. It's primarily used for high school courses and in some instances, middle school courses. The system is looking for a grade term where students earn the final grade and credit for the course. In other words, it's identifying which grade should be used as the official outcome for the class. So if you're an elementary level, this typically isn't something you'll need to worry about. The setting is generally only important for courses that award final grades and credits. So down here, it's quite simple for your quarter courses in your semesters. I would say 90% of the time it's going to be an I. And then you just match it. If it's a Q1, you match it to the Q1 here. So if you have trimesters, you would just match it to the trimesters and 6 weeks, so forth and so on. So I'm going to put this one in for the Q1 and I'm going to submit that.
And Margie, is that something that they should reach out to EMIS about just to make sure it coordinates, or do they not need to do that?
They can check with EMIS. I know that EMIS
Okay.
does do a checklist on it if they are doing their EMIS, but yes, this is EMIS related, but a lot of the EMIS people do know how to do this and check it for them, you bet. Because when they start
Okay.
running their EMIS reports for this report, they'll get a lot of errors.
Okay.
It will
Okay.
not be pretty. So thank you. Yes, thank
Be
you very much for
proactive, I
asking that.
guess.
You got it. Yep. So I'm going to do the Q2 also. I want to finish this one out for you so that you see what we're doing here. And the date for this is October 19th. It's the very next day. And the end date for this one is the end of the semester, which is January 3rd, because your second semester is starting on January 4th. Again, for the Q2s, I would suppress these if you don't want them seen right away. And when you go down to your grade status, it is an I. And your reporting term is matching your Q2. And you can submit. Notice these are falling in to these term buckets here. The next one I'm going to do is my semester 1. And my semester 1, of course, covers the entire semester. And you can open up these grade displays whenever your little heart desires. All you have to do is go in and uncheck them. But for now, I'm checking all of mine. Now for the semester grade, this is the one that counts for your Ohio State reporting. So in this one, you're going to want to put the F in here, the summative or final grade for the course, because this does go to the state. And then you'll want to find that semester one and match it. It's a simple setup. So now I'm going to look at this and say, okay, year-longs have exam grades, but then I forgot this year we're going to start and do exam grades for the semester courses also. So what you'll want to do is go into this Q2 and set it back a few days. It can be 2 or 3 days. And the reason for doing that is if you have like an exam, it's going to overlap your Q2 courses and that will calculate into both. So you don't want it to. So let's say that you want to give them a couple days back to do their exam. So I'm going to change my Q2 to 1-1. And now I'm going to go in and enter my exam area. And my exam will be an E1. And it's going to go the last 2 days. As you notice, I'm putting those over the weekend. That's okay, as long as they have 2 dates for the exam dates. And when they're in Power Teacher Pro, they can see the dates that they need to use for their exams. So it is not hard to find, and we can show you where that is if we get to the Power Teacher Pro settings side. Again, I'm going to suppress all these. The reason I wanted to put this one in, this one is different than the others. Okay, for an exam, you're going to want that to be a grade for progress to date. You don't want this to be an I in here. And you also want it to be an NR for not reportable to ODE. It's just an exam grade. It still falls into the bucket of your semester. So it's okay to do these letters here. And you want to submit that. You would do the same thing for your semester too, but one nice feature is at the bottom for the reporting term dates. You can look down here and make sure they are all correct. You can toggle your start date. So you can look quickly through here and make sure your dates are correct on each one of these. Or you can even toggle by end date. And you can see what's suppressed and what isn't suppressed. I do like the fact that they added this part in, but there are many different ways you can toggle through this to make sure they're correct. And if they're not correct, you can simply click in that Q2 and it takes you back to that one. I know that's a lot. There is one thing to keep in mind. If you're a middle school or a feeder school with students taking classes at the high school, you'll need to make sure your grading terms support the courses that would be at the high school. For example, a middle school may only use semester terms, but the high school courses could be set up as year-long classes. In that case, you'll need to have a corresponding grading terms available in your building. So let's say that you're a middle school and you only had semester classes here. If that kid is taking algebra, for instance, at the high school, you're going to have to put that year-long bucket in here for those students so that when you go to store grades, the stored grades go in correctly. Are there questions on that? I know that can be a little tricky sometimes.
Margie, I didn't have any final grade and reporting term questions, but Pam, I don't know if you want to take yourself off mute. She had a question about athletic eligibility.
Okay.
You still with us, Pam? Okay, are you able to take yourself off mute? There you go. Oh, maybe not. No. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what your question is in regards to that. If you even want to put it in the chat, that would be great too, or we can address it at the end.
Yeah, I don't mind coming
Okay.
back at the end.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
There
All right.
are a few other things I want to show real quick, like for the quick lookup, since I did mention it, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, awesome. For the quick lookup display preferences, a lot of times you'll get something at the top that says your 9 weeks ended and your quick lookup needs checked or whatever. I want to show you where you can go in and do that. That's under school management, display preferences, and quick lookup display preferences. Okay, so your source of data here appears in all three if you want it to. You can leave them all checked as to who can see it, the parents, the teachers, or the admin. Typically, you'll see these all start with the grade book as current. You do have the ability to go in and mark all of these now as historical grades, or you can leave them as current. If you mark them as historical now, they're not going to see any information in there until grades are stored. It's a nice feature. It's very handy for several districts. I know I've seen this used, but you can leave it as current too. What happens is if you mark these as historical, it grays out the information on the quick lookup page. I will submit that and then I'll show you what that looks like as an example. The other thing here is you count multiple meeting attendance. This setting is helpful if your attendance period is tied to another class period, but attendance is tracked separately. For example, you might have an ATT period and a first period class that are technically two different periods. In PowerSchool, however, that first period may be set up to display both the ATT and period one, making it appear as a 2-period long class. So if you don't check the box, the box right here, quick lookup may count those as 2 periods missed when a student is absent. If you do check the box, the system will count the absence as 1 period missed in the attendance totals, even though the class spans both periods. This setting helps prevent attendance from being double counted with a student that's missing what is essentially a 1 attendance block. Okay, so let me go back out here to the start page and show you that real quick. And if I go to the quick lookup, oh, of course, because this kid doesn't have anything in here. Great. Let me flip back here and see if she has stuff from last year. Nope. But in your quick lookup, it would show that if you would go to that, you would see all of the boxes there, the Q1, Q2, Q3, but they would be grayed out similar to this. And only the ones that say current would have that grade displaying. I'm going to jump in, keep going on one more thing. Sorry, Kim, if this is the district office part, you can smack my fingers, okay?
No, you go right ahead. You go right
This part
ahead.
here is the activities for the activities where you can add activities. You would go to school management, courses and programs, your extracurricular activities setup. This is for your sports, your during school activities, your after school programs. You can add them in here. And the nice thing is you can, when you add them, you can either make it for all of your schools or you can make it for your specific school only. The only thing is where it says no spaces, you have to make sure that in this student field, you don't have any spaces. It needs to be an underscore. Okay, I'll leave you be now. I think I'm done. Any questions on any of that? Again, we're always willing to help you guys do whatever. That's what we're here for.
And Margie, since this is covered a little bit later in the checklist, but since you're already on the activities, the activities, they don't clear each year. So I think everybody should know that. So you must go in and clear them out. So Margie, since you're there, yeah, you can see that she went to school, to courses and programs, and then remove students from extracurricular activities. So I believe that is on your checklist, but you would need to remove those each year. So that would be just kind of part of your cleanup process when you're going through this checklist.
Yep. Yep,
Okay.
you'd have to click on all or whichever one you want. No, there isn't a select all at the top. We wanted to give you a little bit of clicking work practice here.
Yeah,
And you would
that's
click the
right.
ones you wanted and submit. I'm not going to submit,
Yes.
so.
Right. So that's how
All
you would
right,
remove those students from those particular activities. So,
awesome.
yeah, so I thought maybe this might be a really good time to review that, even though it's kind of later in our checklist. But
Yeah, sorry I
okay.
jumped the gun.
No, I'm glad you did. That brought up a good subject. Okay. So moving on down the list, then we're going to go to our general checklist. The very first thing is to assign access IDs. This is, with security issues surrounding IDs and passwords, we're going to suggest that you discuss this with your district leader if you're not one. If you are, maybe discuss it also with your tech coordinator, someone who's in charge of getting those passwords and IDs to students. Because it is such a sensitive subject and new security stipulations have been added, concerning usernames and passwords and things like that. We don't actually guide you in how to set up your passwords. So if that is an issue, please put in a ticket to us before school starts. That is something that we can help you with if needed. Or sometimes your tech coordinator, puts in a case and says, hey, I need, something's not working out right, whatever, on our passwords. And that's where you would need to reach out to us. So we're going to kind of skip past that very first one. So we're going to move on. So when we're going to move on to fees, so creating new or editing fees. This is something else that we kind of train separately. But if you want to change your fee, the way you handle fees, please reach out to us as well. You can go to school management and to fees and to fee types within a school building, and you can see the fee types that have been set up. You can also create a new fee type at the building level. So just remember that. I'm just going to look down here and just, take for example, an art fee. This is not where you assign those fees to students. This is just where you create those new fee types. So, but attaching numbers to those fees will need walked through by one of our staff members and, show you how to set those fees up. Many districts that we have use a third-party vendor for fees. Totally fine. I wouldn't say PowerSchool's strong point is fees. So they're getting, hopefully they'll have some updates to fees and they're getting better. But that's not I wouldn't say that is their strong point. Moving down the list, running a direct certification extract. Some districts or some buildings need to do that, often for food service directors, or maybe those who are in charge of lunch fees maybe would possibly need an extract. We can do that by using our group actions menu. So I'm just going to grab a group of students. Today, I'm just going to grab our 10th grade students here in the Meta High School. And I'm going to go down here to my group actions menu down here on my right. And you can see that I've used the export using templates recently. So that's the one it's going to land on. But if you find under student reports, you find export using template and you click on that, you can see my type of exports that are already set up. Okay, so I'm going to go down to my drop down and you can see I have, students, courses, student schedules specific to those particular exports. This time I'm going to choose students. And then you can see that it's giving me an option to choose what template that I want. Okay, so this is under my student templates. These templates have been set up for you. And this particular one, I'm going to try to find called direct certification. You can see here, because this is our test database, we do have 2 of them here. You probably don't have 2. For which records do I want to choose? Do I want to choose just one student that I'm looking for, or do I want to choose the 383 students? And in this case, I want to know who's on direct certification for the 383 students. I'm not going to do that now because it will take a minute. But that is how you get those those templates. Another template that you might be looking for is like the student picture template. And that, lots of people use, different companies for that. Maybe you have it already set up as Life Touch, I know, is one of them. I'm assuming that that's still out there and districts still use it. But there are, others, photo company export, just a basic photo company export. So here is where you can find those templates that you can use for those lists of students when you use that group action of export using templates. So that's why we include that on there, because that's just kind of something that building secretaries may want to do before the start of the year. Margie already talked to you a little bit about the students, just going down the list again, setting up activities and removing activities for students. So I'm not going to, reiterate that. I did want to go to the start page here, and let's review our school bulletin. This is a way to communicate and communicate announcements to your parents, your admin, or your teachers. As once they sign into the respective portal, they will see this bulletin. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to school management. Or actually, no, we're going to go to the start page. Sorry about that. And we're going to scroll down to our page, and we're going to go down to this daily bulletin. And we're going to just click on the icon here. And you can see where I only have one that I've set up that says, welcome back. I wanted my audience to be only admin users. So, I set this one up. I can edit this one if I want to, or I can create a new one if I want to. When I go in to create a new one, I can create a date range. If I don't want that date range to end, I don't have to have an end date on the date range. It's going to automatically default to today's date. What is my target audience? So do I want this to go out to my public? Do I want it to go to just teachers? Do I want it to go to admin? I can determine that through my target audience. I can create a sort order if I want to do that. You don't have to. It does create the order that the bulletin items appear. So if I had several for my teachers, I can create that sort order because I want them to look at it in a particular order. If I want to create a title for my bulletin, I can do that here, a welcome title, welcome back. And then I can create my item body. So, I can create, welcome back, enjoy your year. I can put whatever I would like to here, your 26-27 school year. And that is going to appear for my current audience, which is admin users only. Okay. Again, there's an offer that you can put that in the Spanish language, or you can, just do it in the English language. I don't recommend, and I always say this, I don't recommend putting too many item announcements on there because eventually, they'll get buried. And then if you don't clean up that bulletin, you're going to have lots and lots of those to look through. Okay, so that's very, very basic. Another item is as we're just looking down here, is the sub sign-in settings. So if I go back to my start page, and I'm going to go back to my school management. And then this time I'm going to go down here to the bottom to user access and define substitute passwords. So this might be something that your building does even on a monthly basis. Some may do it even more than that. I'm having a lag here in my system right now. But we can you can change the password for your subs, and then that way they only have access during that time. So if you want to change that, weekly, if you want to change that monthly, A lot of the building secretaries are in charge of that as they, as they have their substitutes come in. And so sorry about there we go. Okay, so if I want to change that, I can encrypt that, or I can make this whatever I want. And then I can also include my current date. I can also do that as well. So this is actually disabled for the district, but and you can see up here at the top that the substitute teachers can sign in 1 hour before school and 1 hour after school. When the substitute portal, when enabled, will only show schools and lead teachers that have classes today. So again, you don't want those substitutes to have access to your building information, days and days after they're not in the building anymore. So that's just one thing that I like to touch on every year, in this training. Some recommendations for new staff. We do have PowerSchool 101 training, used to be called IPT if you've been here a while. But we do recommend that for all of your staff members. We do have previously recorded trainings out on our YouTube channel, and we do have some upcoming trainings on our Meta Solutions events calendar. So, as a building, as a building leader, I always suggest, anybody new that's coming in, at least take that PowerSchool 101. You're just going to learn how to navigate through those pages. And, we always recommend that to our district leaders to give that to their new employees, their new staff members for each year. So we do try to hold that, before the year starts, but I'll be honest with you, it's hard to find a date that's good for everyone. I feel like every district is so busy, when everybody comes back to school that, it's hard to find that very perfect date just to get that in, but we certainly do try. Okay, so that is the end of our building checklist. If you are a building staff member and you do not do any district management, you do not have to stay for this. You're welcome to stay if you want to, but it's probably things that you may not have access to. I think a lot of you on here are district leaders, so that's fine if everyone stays. But we will go ahead and start walking you through that district list. So if you are up here in your system, I'm going to go ahead and switch to my district office now. And again, I'm going to look at those instead of school management. I'm going to click on district management, and this time district setup. And I'm still going to go to those additional system preferences. And again, this is a great place. You just need to look through this. This is going to be your settings that you had last year. Okay, so do you want these same settings? Do you want to keep everything enabled and disabled that you have on from last year? This is the place to look at this. I'm not going to go through each one of these. I know that our district leaders, look at these. I'm not going to go through each one of these again, as we did in our school management. But this is definitely something that's on our checklist that we want you to be looking at. In regards, yeah.
We had a question about your PowerSchool 101.
Yes.
It says PowerSchool 101, you say new staff members. Does this include teachers?
Yes, it does include teachers. If you want your teachers to attend, I think it's a great reference for the teachers. Again, they're not going to have admin access to everything in PowerSchool 101. But I will tell you this, PowerSchool IPT used to be a 2-day training. We've actually discussed that or made it an option to just do a 1-day training. So it is an all-day training. That's the only thing is it does take up a full day training. We do not cover Power Teacher Pro. We touch on it, but we do not cover Power Teacher Pro. So that would be a separate training. And Margie, I'm not positive. I know that we are planning to do a Power Teacher Pro training. I don't think it's on. I don't do that training, but I don't think it's on the calendar yet. So
Well,
just keep checking back with our events calendar and check on that Power Teacher Pro.
Yeah.
I think Sarah's working on dates for that training right now, Kim.
Okay. I was going to say that it's been, like I said before, it's been a little difficult trying to get, by the time the teachers come back, it's like they have a couple days and then they're in the classroom. So, so again, but when we do that Power Teacher Pro training, they will record that training. So that will be out on our YouTube channel as soon as that does take place. So good question. I love that question. All right, so I'm going to move on just real quickly down to scheduling. So when we talk about scheduling at the district level, what we're talking about is, hey, check in with your schedulers, check in with your elementary buildings, make sure that they have some schedules, make sure that they're getting their students scheduled. Now, I know that some buildings, like elementary buildings, staff would maybe just be coming back probably next week, maybe this week, but more likely the beginning of August. So once they get back in there, check with them, make sure they have do they have any questions? Are they having scheduling difficulties? If they are, scheduling does have a ps.scheduling.support case. And you can submit that case straight to our schedulers, and we will take a look at those scheduling issues if they're having any. So again, just check in with them. Check to see, do they have a master schedule yet? And check in that building, in the elementary buildings. My elementary buildings in this environment do not have schedules yet, because again, we're working with that fake data. But check to see, in those elementary schools, you can check on people, and you can go to staff, and you can go to their teacher schedules to see if those teachers do have schedules yet. So again, just referencing, just do that check in with them. That's why we have that on our district checklist. Talking back to calendars again, we can go to district management, and we can go to scheduling. That's a little bit different place in here. And we can go to that batch school setup if those calendars haven't been set up yet. Again, do not perform this batch school setup if your calendars are already taken care of in those buildings. But here is where you can see that. Here's where you can see the list of your buildings. Are the years and terms created? Is the calendar updated? Well, is the calendar fulfilled? It might not be updated. It might be filled with your dates, but maybe you need to go in there and change those holidays, those dates that that you have off, those Christmas breaks, and spring breaks and things like that. Are the reporting terms correct? And do you want, the quick lookup to be set up in that building? So here's where you can see that as kind of a one-stop shop look at your buildings and what is done in each building. I know Margie touched base on the GPA methods and the athletic ability or athletic eligibility. And I know that I had said that we would touch base on this as well. If you go to district management and you go to academics, and then you go to GPA calculation methods, there it is. And you are going to see athletic eligibility for Q1. That's what you want to look at right now. So if you click into that athletic eligibility for Q1 and you scroll down to the terms, to the grade level, right here, grade levels, you want to change this to 2025, okay? Because we're looking at Q4 in 2025 to determine the eligibility for your start of year. Okay, Margie, is there anything that you want to add to that? I think that was the question that we were kind of going to come back to from earlier.
And that was exactly what I wanted right there. So no, you are spot on with it to change it. Yep.
Okay, so just again, make sure that it probably says 2024 in there, unless you've changed it already. Change that to 2025, click that submit, And that is going to, again, then that eligibility is going to look at that, that Q4 from 2025, not 2024. Okay. And again, then moving on down the list for our district, Power Teacher Pro grade book settings. So if we go to district management, we go up here to applications, you're going to see this Power Teacher Pro, all these different settings for Power Teacher Pro. I'm going to go into the traditional grade calculation formulas. I'm just going to touch base really quickly on this. If you have changes within your Power Teacher Pro, please reach out to us. Right now is the perfect time before your school starts to make those changes, and we can walk you through it district by district. If you do not have changes, do not mess with this page. It doesn't need to be changed. But if you have those changes, please put a case in. We'll walk you through one-on-one. One thing I do want to show you is, you can, again, this is just a trained database, but I put in a year-long grading for Hayes. If you go into the edit for that, here is where you can make those changes. Again, I don't have anything set up in here, but if you don't have changes, you don't need to touch this right now. I do want to focus going back to district management to applications. I do want to show you the lock reporting term settings within Power Teacher Pro settings. Yours might look a little bit different here, obviously, because actually, with the updates, I believe you do have a couple more columns here. I want to say it shows the days after reporting term, and everybody sees the days after reporting term and the days to warn teachers. But I'm pretty sure that there's an update that has a couple more columns. Again, this train database does not have that, but you can change these settings by clicking the edits at whatever particular building you're looking at. So again, you can enable those locked terms at each building. You can see this, again, this is a great at a glance. You can see what terms are locked, what terms are not locked. If there's no warning needed or no warning actually specified for the building, you can see that at a glance here. And that's why I just wanted to point this out to you. You can filter up here on your building and anything. If you have lots and lots of buildings, I know the bigger districts probably have just tons and tons of buildings. You can filter by the school name here. So, and you can just apply that and look at them one-on-one. But I did want to point out this lock reporting term setting at the district level for all of you district leaders. Moving on, though, I did want to mention, I know I mentioned fee types earlier. This was added last year at the district level. You can push out fee types to the other buildings. And then once you push those out to the buildings, the particular building cannot edit or change that fee type. So if you want to be in control of those fee types and you don't want them creating fee types, you can go as a district level or at a district level, you can go into fees and go into fee types. And you can push those out. So if I click into my field trip here, you can see where I've created a field trip fee type, and my fee category is school. It's an activity, but I can select the schools that I want those fee types to go out to. And then once I go back into that school building, so if I were to go back into the Meta, and I'll just show you here, if I were to go back to the Meta Elementary School 2, let me just switch over here. And if I go into fees, I am not able to edit or change that fee type, which is kind of nice. Go back into fee types. I'm in a building level again. Oops, I'm on 25, 26, 26, 27. Oh, that's not created in there. But anyway, as you see that this field trip fee type that I created at the district level, I am not able to click into it like I am the ones that I created at the building level. So again, if you want, if you kind of want to be in control over those fee types, that is a good way to do that at the district level. Okay. I believe we've pretty much touched base then on, let me just look at my thing here. Pro here. Okay, the day they, I think we've done everything or answered all the questions in regards to the activities. If you do have more questions regarding eligibility activity, now is the time to ask that question. We will answer questions at the end as well. The school bulletin at the district level, again, you can create your school bulletin. This is a good way, again, to get those announcements out to admin, to teachers, to parents at a district level. Is there anything that I'm missing, Margie and Lindsay, that you think I need to touch base with? Oh, I do want to touch base with one more thing. At the district level, I want to show you some health, some health pages. So we will also have a health management training. This was actually also a 2-day training that is going down to 1-day training. It's going to show you the setup and how to use the health pages. We have a really old YouTube video out there, but we will have that new one coming up very soon. So this is not something that maybe you need right now, but this is something that if you want to show your nurses how to get into the health pages, they can do so by going in through the district level. There's some setup that is available at the district level that you may want to set up for your nurses. And again, that health training will show you. The morning will be about the setup. The afternoon will be about how to use those pages. So again, just watch our meta calendar, and for that. But this is some places where you can set up those screening types. You can also click into health setup, and it gives you the option of using our enhanced health system features. There's some new catheters and tube feedings monitoring types that were added on last year. So again, just take a look at these health screens. Meet with your nurses. You can even do this once school starts. I know that they usually come in that first day and are ready to get going with getting your immunizations and everything put in. So again, just touch base with your nurse. But here is where you would kind of go into those settings, see if she wants to see particular settings that are on here, and so on. So I did just want to guide you to that health management page. Again, when you're as a district leader, I hope that you're reviewing your staff accounts, at the end of the school year. There is a meta audit security audit page that I wanted to show you. If you go to district management and you go to, system management, and you go to security, there under page management is a meta security audit page. And this is where you can look and see what groups have specific securities. So this is letting me know that excessive privileges are accessed, and it's showing me my page that it's saying I have a lot of people that have excessive privileges. I have 19 groups that have configure page permissions access for all groups. So if I click into that 19 groups, it's going to list all the groups that have access to that page. Do I want to make some changes? Do I not want to make some changes? This is where you can kind of make this district audit your own. Okay. So it also shows, again, this is a trained database, so it's going to give, some excessive, a lot of excessive amounts of privileges. But Limited privileges. Here's the groups that have limited privileges. Who do I want to access custom links? Do I want just the administrator, or do I want to add some more groups in there? DDA is a good one. I would hope that you don't have, too many groups that can access DDA. But take a look at this. This is something that, we are going to start, hopefully, touching base with you in regards to security. Again, this leads back to all the passwords, the IDs and things like that. I mean, security is it's just getting a bigger and bigger issue as we move on throughout the school year. So again, this is a good way for you to start as district leaders to kind of audit your security. And last but not least, on our new district checklist is My Power Hub. And we have added to our district checklist, and I'm just going to go up here and show it real quick. We've added at the very bottom a couple things that you need to do. You should be on My Power Hub. You should be using that as your student and parent portals. So to reopen the public portal, you'll need to uncheck the Disable Student and Parent Portals in the Mobile Apps button under District Management, District Setup, Additional System Preferences. That was on that first page that we looked at. And you need to do that to turn on the My Power Hub, okay? On the same page, I don't have this in my train environment, which is why I'm just, showing you this on the checklist. But on the same page, uncheck the box next to disable My Power Hub link on the public portal so that you can allow those guardians and students to be able to navigate to My Power Hub. And I gave you a little vision here of what that might look like. From the education portal, from the educator portal, navigate to admin, My Power Hub, and make sure the portals are checked so that users can access My Power Hub when you're ready. Now, with that being said, you should be on My Power Hub. If for some reason you've missed that email that came from a couple of our team members, please go back, find that email, get signed up to take a look at your My Power Hub settings. I know that they've walked through almost every district, I believe, getting that set up. And so you all should be using that this year. I know we mentioned it last year, but there are some, guidelines to what you need to do to open that up to your parents and students. Again, always, if there's any questions about My Power Hub, you have it up running, and you have questions about it, always put in a case and we will get that information to you.